Hi, welcome to this series on your preparation for your TGPSC groups exam. Today's topic is deductions. We'll be covering some problems and concepts for your logical reasoning part of this exam. Let's look at the first question. So here you will be given a few statements and then you will have to deduce which of the answer options is right based on the statements. So the first question says, based on the following statements, which is the correct conclusion drawn? Only gentlemen can become members of the club. Many of the members of the club are officers and some of the officers have been invited for dinner. Okay, so here they're asking which answer option is correct. So A is all members of the club have been invited for the dinner. So it's definitely saying some of the officers are invited for the dinner. So we cannot say that all members are invited for the dinner, right? If all members were invited, then all of the officers would be invited. Now answer option B says some of the officers are not gentlemen. Okay, so they're saying only gentlemen can become members of the club and many of the members are officers, right? So they are not commenting on whether there are officers who are not gentlemen. So this is, you cannot give a conclusion of B based on these statements, right? And then C says all gentlemen are members of the club. Okay, they're saying only gentlemen are the members of the can become members of the club, but doesn't say that all gentlemen automatically become members of the club, right? So C is also not the right conclusion. D says only gentlemen have been invited for dinner. Okay, now let's look at this conclusion. We know that only gentlemen are members of the club, correct? So out of all the members, if you are still looking at the members, you are looking at gentlemen and many of the members are officers, right? Okay, so you can say that these officers who are members are gentlemen, and then they're saying some of the officers have been invited for dinner. So some of these officers who are members they are automatically gentlemen. So you can definitely say that only gentlemen have been invited for the dinner. Answer option is D. Let's look at the next question now. Blueberries cost more than strawberries. Blueberries cost less than raspberries. So the third statement is raspberries cost more than strawberries and blueberries. Okay, so if first two statements are true, and what does that say about the third statement is the question. So you know that the price of blueberries is more than the price of strawberries. And the second statement says the price of blueberries is less than the price of raspberries. So you can write it like this, that blueberries is less than the price of raspberries. So looking at this, we can say that price of raspberries is greater than price of blueberries is greater than price of strawberries. So definitely raspberries are the costliest and they cost more than strawberries and blueberries. So the third statement is true if the first two statements are also true. Let's look at the next question now. All the trees in the park are flowering trees. Some of the trees in the park are dogwoods. All dogwoods in the park are flowering trees. Okay, so you have some trees in, you're again given that the first two statements are true and you need to comment on the third statement. Okay, so when you know that if the tree is in the park, then it has to be they're all flowering, and they're saying some of the trees in the park are dogwoods. So these dogwoods are a subset of all the trees in the park. So these dogwoods, because they're in the park and all the trees in the park are flowering, so definitely you can conclude that all dogwoods which are in the park are flowering trees. So if first two statements are true, then the third statement will also be true. Answer option is A. Let's look at the next question now. All chickens are birds. Some chickens are hens. Female birds lay eggs. If the first three statements are facts, okay, Which of the following statements must also be a fact? Okay, so the first statement here says all birds lay eggs. So when you are saying that female birds lay eggs, then obviously it means that the male birds may not lay eggs. So definitely first statement is not a fact. And then they're saying hens are birds. Okay, all chickens are birds, right? And they're saying that some chickens, some of these are hens. So this is a subset of all of the chickens, that is all of the chickens are birds. So hens are definitely birds. So this is 2 is a logical conclusion and it is a fact based on the first 3 statements, right? First 3 facts. Now they're saying statement 3 says some chickens are not hens. Okay, so when you're saying some chickens are hens, then you're obviously saying that the rest of them are not hens, right? Either they can be hens or they are hens or they are not hens. So if some chickens are hens, then some chickens are not hens. So these 2 are also facts based on these 3 facts. So statement 2 and 3 are definitely facts. So let's look at the next question now. Joe is younger than Kathy. Mark was born after Joe. So if someone is born after a person, then they are younger than them. So you can say Joe, age of Joe is less than age of Kathy. And Mark was born after Joe. So age of Mark will be less than age of Joe. And Kathy is older than Mark. So this is the third statement. So if the first 2 statements are true, then what can you say about the third statement? So from here, logically, we can conclude that age of Kathy is more than age of Mark. So Kathy is definitely older than Mark, correct? So yeah, the third statement will also be true. Let's look at the next question now. All tulips in Zoe's garden are white. All the pansies in Zoe's garden are yellow. All the flowers in Zoe's gardens are either white or yellow. Okay, so the first 2 statements are true. Comment about the third statement. Okay, so there is, Zoe has a garden. Okay, in Zoe's garden you have tulips. All of the tulips are white. And in Zoe's garden there are also pansies. And all of these pansies, all pansies are yellow. Now, based on this, can we say that all flowers in Zoe's garden are either yellow or white? See, we know all tulips are white and all pansies are yellow, but then Zoe could have some roses, right? And the roses could be pink. So you cannot, on the third statement, you cannot say that it is false. It could be that Zoe only has tulips and pansies, then in which case it will be true. The third statement will be true. But if she has other types of flowers as well, right, so in her garden, then they could be of a different color and hence it can be false. So you cannot say it is true. Definitely you cannot say it's true. You can also not say it's false, but you can definitely say it's uncertain. So answer option is C. Let's look at the next question. Class A has higher enrollment than Class B. Class C has lower enrollment than Class B. So, okay. So, let's say the enrollment of Class A is higher than that of B and C is lower than that of B. So, if you rewrite this, you will say that B is greater than C. Enrollment of B is greater than C. So, you know how to combine these two inequality statements. You can write it as A is greater than B is greater than C. So, you can definitely say that Class A has higher enrollment than Class C. So, obviously, given that the first two statements are true, this third statement which says that Class A has a lower enrollment than Class C is false. So, you can definitely say that the third statement is false. Let's look at the next question now. Some tigers are goats, all goats are cows. Okay, so let's see the conclusions they're talking about. So, the first one is all cows are goats. So they're saying all goats are cows, right? So there could be, that doesn't definitely mean that all cows are also goats, because there can be that there are X number of goats, they're all cows, right? But there can be Y, say, elephants. This is not a logical statement, but this is not like in our general awareness logical, but this is the statements that we are given, so we have to work with such assumptions. So if say Y, elephants can also be cows. So this shows that just because all goats are cows doesn't mean that all cows will be goats. So this is not a logical conclusion. Now the second one says some tigers are cows. Okay, so you have some tigers, right? Some of them are goats. And if they are goats, because whoever is a goat is automatically becoming a cow, because all goats are cows. So these tigers, which are goats, will automatically become a cow. So definitely some of these tigers are cows. So this is a logical conclusion. So statement 2, only conclusion 2 is correct. Answer option is B. Let's look at the next question now. Some girls are thieves. All thieves are dacoits. Okay, there are girls, some of them are thieves, and whoever is a thief, all of these thieves are dacoits. Okay, so the conclusion, some girls are dacoits, right? Some of these girls are thieves, and they automatically, whoever is a thief becomes a dacoit. So obviously some of these girls will definitely be a dacoit. So this is a logical conclusion based on these statements. And then the second conclusion is all dacoits are girls. So we know that all the thieves are dacoits, but then there are, out of these thieves, there are some girls, but there could be some boys, right? There could be something else. So doesn't definitely mean that all of these dacoits, are girls. So this is not a logical conclusion. Only statement 1 is, only conclusion 1 is correct. So the answer is option A. Let's look at the next question now. Raman is always successful. No fool is always successful. Okay, the conclusions are Raman is a fool and Raman is not a fool. Okay, so Raman is someone who is always successful and no fool is always successful. So if Raman were a fool, he could obviously not be successful, he could not be always successful. So definitely means that Raman is not a fool. So the answer option is B, only conclusion 2 is correct. Let's look at the next question. Some papers are pens. Angle is a paper. Okay, so the conclusion is angle is not a pen. Okay, so we know angle is a paper, right? And of these papers, some are pens. So can you definitely conclude if angle is not a pen? So you cannot say it could be one of these some papers which become pens, right? And you cannot definitely say that angle is a pen either. It could be one of those which is not part of these some papers who become pens. So we cannot say neither of these conclusions follows. That's not true. Either it is a pen or it is not a pen. So one of the two has to be true. So answer option is B. Either 1 or 2 follows. Let's look at the next question now. If Ram studies, he will pass the exam, and it's given that Ram fails the exam. Which of the following statements is true? So it is given that Ram has failed the exam, right? And if Ram studied, then he will pass an exam. There is no question about it. He would not have failed the exam. So obviously you will logically conclude that Ram did not study for the exam. And can you say that Ram may or may not have studied for the exam? This is not a right conclusion, because if he studies, this is definite, because this is given as a definite statement. If it says that if Ram studies, he may passes exam, then this answer option would have been right. But since instead of may it is will here, so we can conclude that answer option B is right, that Ram did not study for the exam. Let's look at the next question now. Some handles are chairs, all chairs are pots, all pots are mats, some mats are buses. Okay, we have handles, some of which are chairs, and out of these chairs all of them are pots, and out of these pots all of them are mats, and out of these mats some are buses. Okay, so let's see which of these conclusions are logically correct. The first conclusion is some buses are chairs. So since some buses are mats, and all of these mats, all of mats are pots, and all of pots are chairs, so we can definitely say that yeah, some of the buses, right, some of these buses are chairs. So this is something that we can conclude. And some mats are handles. So some handles are chairs, and whoever is a chair automatically is a pot, and whoever is a pot is automatically a mat. So you can say that some handles are mats, or you can say some mats are handles. This is definitely a logical conclusion. No bus is a chair. So you can see from here, from this flow, that there are buses, some buses which are mats. We have some buses which are mats, and all of the mats are pots, and all of the pots are chairs. So that means that all of the mats are chairs. So there will be some buses which are chairs. So this is not a true, this is a no, this is not a true statement. So now the fourth one says some mats are chairs. So we know that all chairs are pots, and all pots are mats, right? So obviously all chairs are mats, right? And that does mean that some of the mats are chairs. There could be that this means that all of the chairs are mats, but we cannot definitely say all of the mats are chairs, but we can definitely say that some of the mats are chairs. So this is also a true logical conclusion. So the answer option is A. Only 1, 2 and 4 follow. 3 is not true. Let's look at the next question now. Find the logic involved within two statements of P and Q. All musicians are rich. No rich person is polite. Therefore, musicians are not polite. Okay. And the Q statement is some musicians are not rich. All musicians are polite. And therefore, not all polite persons are rich. Okay. So if you're saying that there are some musicians, right? And all of them, this is statement P. Statement P says all of the musicians are rich. And all of this, they're saying no rich person is polite. That means all of these rich people are not polite. Okay, so therefore musicians are not polite. It is concluding that musicians are not polite. It is true, right? If the musicians, all of these musicians are rich, and it is said that none of these rich people are polite, that means all of them are not polite. So definitely all musicians are not polite. So P is a logical conclusion. So P is true logic. The logic flows here. Q says some musicians are not rich. So there are musicians, some of whom are not rich. And it says that all of the musicians are polite. This seems like a more logical statement. Anyway, back to the question. Therefore, not all polite persons are rich. So, if you're saying there are some musicians who are rich, that means that there are some musicians who are not rich, correct? So they are saying the conclusion that not all polite persons are rich. So out of these musicians, there are all of them are polite. So there can be some polite people who are not rich, right? So not all polite persons are rich is also a true conclusion given that this statement. So P and Q both are true. Let's look at the next question now. All mangoes are golden in color and no golden colored things are cheap. These are the two statements. And the conclusions are all mangoes are cheap and golden colored mangoes are not cheap. Okay, so we know that mangoes, all of them are golden, and when we say that no golden colored things are cheap, that means all of the golden colored things are not cheap. So when all of the mangoes are golden and all of the golden colored things are not cheap, we can say that all mangoes are not cheap. So this is the opposite of that. So first conclusion is not correct. And the second conclusion, that golden colored mangoes are not cheap, correct. So mangoes are golden, so that's a redundant statement, but still it is true. So golden colored mangoes are not cheap. So the option is only conclusion 2 follows the statements. Let's look at the next question now. I feel happy every time I dance. A is I didn't dance. B, I danced. C, I felt happy. D, I didn't feel happy. So here you have to pick a combination of statements, either B, C, A, D or C, B, which follow the logic of this statement that is given. So let's look at this combination B and C. I danced, I felt happy. So that's what the statement says, right? It says that I feel happy every time I dance. So B, C is the correct answer option. Can A, D be a logical conclusion? I didn't dance, I didn't feel happy. So this statement says that every time I danced, I felt happy. So that doesn't mean that if I didn't dance, I didn't feel happy. It could be that I didn't dance, but I was studying or meditating and I still felt happy, right? So AD is not the logical conclusion. But BC is definitely a conclusion that if they danced, that is, if I danced, I felt happy. So BC is the right answer. Let's look at the next question now. The statements say all fans are watches, some watches are black. These are the two statements, and the conclusions are all watches are fans and some fans are black. Okay, so you have fans and all of these fans are watches. And you have some of these watches which are black, correct? So can you conclude that all watches are fans? You know that all the fans are watches, but that does not mean that all watches are fans. It can say that some watches are fans. Whenever you see all of something on this side is something on the right hand side, you can only say that some of something on the right hand side is what's on the left hand side. Okay, so if you say that all fans are watches, you can only say that some watches are fans. You cannot say that all watches are fans. So this is not a valid conclusion. And the second statement says some fans are black, right? So all of fans are watches and some of these watches are black. So it could be that there are these fans, right? They're all watches, but some of these watches are black. You cannot definitely say that some fans are black, right? Because some of these watches, it could be that they are not fans, right? We will say that all of the fans become watches, but there could be something like a grinder, okay, which also becomes watches. So it could be these grinders become watches and those specific watches become black because only some watches become black, right, are black. So it could be that this statement is also not a logical conclusion. Alright, so neither 1 nor 2 follows. So the answer option is D. So those were the questions on the topic of deductions for your logical reasoning part in the groups exam for your TSPSC preparation. Hope that helps. Thank you for watching.